We're live. Hi, my name is
Woohoo.
Lizzie Langston. I am the host of this publication, The Kitchen and the Cosmos, where we're studying what it is to be human, where you are part kitchen or human and part cosmos, the great beyond, the I am. And I'm here today with Rachel Merrill, who is, like me, a psychic medium. She's a coach, she's also a priestess. And so I want you to introduce yourself, Rachel, and tell us a little bit about just let's start with your education and your professional background, and then we'll go into fun storytelling.
Ooh, I love it. Well, first of all, thank you, Lizzie, for the warm welcome. I'm
Yeah.
very excited to be here. A quick background about me is that I grew up in North Dakota. I've lived in about 8 places, and I have not been in Arizona for even a year yet. But yeah, my spiritual journey has been quite wild because I was raised in the Christian church. I went into catechism when I was 11 and I minored in religion in college. I was a camp counselor at Christian camps, so I did all the Christian things. And then in 2015, my friend passed, and she came to me from the other side and she said, "You're going to be a medium." And I was like, "That's terrifying. I don't want to talk to dead people." And she was like, "Too bad. You're going to do it for the rest of your life." So I accepted the challenge. and my education, because I chose to really pour myself into that new life purpose, besides like my degrees, besides like my bachelor's in French, my master's in social justice and intercultural relations, because social justice is very important to me. I dove right into becoming a Reiki master. I learned how to read the Akashic records, which really opened up my mediumship skills even more. It really blew the door wide open. I learned how to read tarot cards, oracle, use a pendulum, automatic writing, channeling. I studied mediumship with the Arthur Findlay College in the UK and with mediums John Holland and Lauren Rainbow. Actually, Travis Holt was another medium. He was in the same class as me at Arthur Findlay College, and yeah, he's fantastic. And he does not gatekeep. Just a little aside, I talk to him sometimes. I DM him on Instagram, and he talks to me. So there's an amazing community of mediums out there. Some of us are more visible than others, but that's why you and I are connected, Lizzie. When I moved to the Phoenix area, I was looking for a medium to be friends with because my spirituality is so deeply important, helping others, guiding others, being a light for others, being like a light bearer, a light worker, and sometimes being a light worker for other light workers is such a privilege. I do spiritual mentorship. I do a lot of different things. And yes, I am doing level 2 of the Little Melchizedek for priestess training,
Mhm.
a 9-hour session over Saturday and Sunday.
Mm.
So that's been a summary of my journey so far, and I love what I do because it is tapping into that connection to higher source, creator, all the wisdom that is. It's like a database. Like you get to access the database of all the wisdom and the knowledge that's out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
source is so
Amazing.
generous. Yeah, we think the internet's cool, but like we
Mhm.
have this collective web that is so much bigger than we can even imagine that we just get to tune into. That's awesome. Well,
That
I'm
is true. I
so
forgot to
glad.
mention I have done remote viewing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll add that to the list. The list goes on and on. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, well, one of
We
the
are
reasons.
always discovering new gifts.
Yeah, we are. One of the reasons I wanted to have Rachel on is because she's been a little bit of a mentor to me, so I wanna give a bit of my history. A lot like Rachel, my mediumship began not when a friend passed away, but when my 2 grandmothers passed away, pretty close to one another, timeline-wise, and then they came through to me in a Reiki session that I was doing just to help with my grief. I wasn't soliciting any connection, um, but yeah, there was one. And then from there on out, the door has stayed open and, I've continued to learn. And I do feel like between my religious upbringing, which we share in common, different religions, but very similar kind of like culture and constriction and fear around some of these gifts, that we didn't ask for. I remember one time
Yes.
I was
Each
touring I
us.
was touring,
Mhm,
I was touring the home of this teacher who I was thinking of having my kids be at her school that she ran from her home. It was sort of like a hybrid, not homeschool, not regular,
mhm.
like a micro school. And she had a picture of the Mormon temple on her wall. And I grew up Mormon and now I'm not. And I'm a psychic medium. And I told her I was a medium. And she's like, "Oh, what do your parents think of that?" And I'm like, "You're making it sound like I'm a rebel and I'm just going around saying I'm a medium." I'm like, "I was actually just a really great Mormon person, and then this happened to me, sis, okay?" So, anyway, it's been a very deep
Exactly.
yeah, it's been a deep ego death to, surrender to the gifts, so my gifts came and I wanna still go through your story more, so we'll get there, but I wanted to everybody to know both of where we came from. My gifts came online in 2020, and for 4 years, I would experience, like, um, just all the different ways that spirit would talk to me and sometimes even seeing things, but it was very much between me and spirit or me and God, I guess.
Mhm,
And then in 2024 January, I had a dream that it was, it just inviting me. It was my spirit team like, "Hey, this is called being a medium, and it's a thing, and we're inviting you to share it." But it's so funny, I never ever knew the word medium really. Like, in Mormon land, we don't talk about psychics and mediums. We just talk about, like, God and Jesus and more Jesus.
mhm,
So, anyways, it's just interesting that, for those who are curious about psychic stuff, like, somebody passing through the veil in your life can be something that awakens your
mhm.
gifts, because love can cross the veil. And so maybe your body can't, but your heart sure can. And for me, it really opened that up. So, well, I would love to hear a little bit about like childhood to now, just like a zoomed out kind of just drop us into a few different points on your timeline of any sort of
Mhm.
intuitive, like, if somebody was watching this and
Yeah.
they're super curious, they're like, "Could I be a medium?" Or, "How does it work to be a medium?"
Mhm,
Like, when were you spiritual? Were you psychic? Did you have any sorts of interesting experiences? And then, all the way up to that time where your friend told you that you were a medium and your gifts were fully there. I'd love to hear about that.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, everyone is born with the ability to be a medium, but not everyone either chooses it or allows it to be activated within them. Some people shut it down, especially with the way that society will judge that with religion or institutions, calling it crazy, really
Yeah.
dismissing it. It's pretty common for many people to not believe in it, but we are able through talking to the people on the other side of the veil to get information that there's no way that we personally could have known. There's no way we could have accessed it. We couldn't have Googled it. It's because we're speaking directly with the loved ones on the other side. So I always had some form of spiritual gifts, but I wasn't able to specifically remember talking to dead people as a child. That didn't come fully on board until 2015 for me. Although I did have experiences. So I grew up on a farm in North Dakota. I went to a Reformed church, which they believe in Calvinism or predestination. So they think that when you're born, God already decides that these people get to go to heaven, these people get to go to hell. What I believe now is as far away as possible from that. I believe that we have free will and I have a different view on heaven and hell. But I do remember a couple of things happening in my childhood. I grew up in an abusive household. I grew up, and I feel like it's noteworthy. It's something to talk about because I had to learn how to read patterns. I had to like feel like I was walking on eggshells, especially
Yep.
around my dad, for example, and even sometimes around my mom. And so I learned how to read their energy. I learned how to read the energy bodies so that I could kind of prepare myself so I could know like which version of them am I getting today? Am I getting the charismatic version that everyone in town knows of, or am I getting the behind the scenes darker side of them? Because I believe we all have dark and light, and really the dark would come out quite a bit, especially with my dad, and he was abusive. So anyway, I remember my first memory of really like having something spiritual happen. There were a couple that really stand out to me. One is that it was a really hot night during the summer. There was no air conditioning in my bedroom. I lived in a family homestead. So it had been in my family for generations out on the prairie of North Dakota. And so I went downstairs. I couldn't sleep. It was just so hot. I was dripping in sweat, and people in Arizona can relate to dripping in sweat constantly because of the
Yeah.
heat. Anyway, I went downstairs and I asked my brother if I could sleep in his room because he was on the couch in the living room. And so he said yes. I went to go lay on his bed while he was not in his bed. He was on the couch. And I laid down on my belly and I was writing in my journal. And all of a sudden, I felt like something was watching me or somebody was watching me. And so I looked out. I don't even think I've told you this story,
Yeah.
Lizzie. I
I
looked
love it.
out of the window and I could see this brightly glowing small white light. And my brain kept trying to process what it was. And so I thought, because I've never seen anything like that before that point. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 12 years old, pretty young. And I remember seeing this light. I thought maybe it was an airplane, but then it moved through the trees behind my house. So then, obviously, it's not an airplane. I thought maybe it could be like because it was raining, the light reflecting on the leaves. But then it moved into the air in my backyard. So I thought maybe it's a lightning bug, just trying to figure out like, what am I looking at? And it was definitely not a lightning bug. So then it came closer to, we had a swing set in the backyard and there was a tree right next to it. So it went next to the tree and then it went above the swing set, left, right, left, just like floating. And then it started coming toward me in the window. And I started to panic. I was so freaked out. I was like, what is this? I have no concept of what this thing is. I don't know what's happening. I don't like it. And I just like put my head down, put my covers over my head, and I thought maybe it will go away. It felt like it was there for half an hour. It was probably like 2 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. Finally, I lifted my head up. I looked again. It was gone. I found out later that what I had seen was an orb. I don't know if it was like an angelic presence or but actually no, that's not true. Later I found out that it was connected to the lineage of Melchizedek, of the priestesshood that I went into. I found that out through a meditation. It was like being shown that you were chosen for this path, that was the point that spirit said, "Hello, you're going to go down this path and it might not unfold the way that you expect." So
Yeah.
that happened. And then the other thing that happened was I always sang in church. So I always did solos at church, and that was the one place that I really felt seen because I was a very overweight girl because I overate. I felt traumatized by the abuse, so then I would eat a lot. And then the only place that I really felt like people showed me unconditional love was when I was singing on stage. So I sang at church, and back then we had a cassette tape, like a recorder, and I listened to the recording later, and in the recording, and remember, I had been singing by myself, but in the recording, I could hear perfect harmony. It was like an angel was singing with me, and I
Wow.
had the recording of it. I wish I still had the recording. I wish I still had it. So
Wow.
those are some of the spiritual things. But yeah, I was always like, I remember even as a little girl, I was obsessed with crystals and yoga. And I had a book on how to summon fairies. And
Yep.
didn't even know I was making um, boxes that like witches would make. I called them dream boxes, but I put things into them that I guess it's considered witchcraft. And I didn't know until I got older.
Wow.
Um, so there were definitely signs that I was witchy, that I was spiritual, that my gifts were blossoming and blooming from a very young age. But yeah, it wasn't until 2015 when my friend passed that I decided, okay, I'm going to just pursue being open to this gift of mediumship because I've been giving it very clearly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah, and when I mentioned I have been mentoring with Rachel, one of the things that I have struggled with, just in full transparency, and Rachel already knows this, but um, I've struggled with being more public about being a medium. I think part of it is I know my like some conservative Mormon family is on Instagram, and that kind of sits in my body sometimes. And then there's the whole, even if you get past all of the social stuff, then there's the actual, like, okay, so I have this gift. I know I have it because I've known things that came out of nowhere that I never could have known, that people never told a soul, right? Like,
Mhm.
those time like one time I knew this girl was at risk for having breast cancer. She wasn't even in my session. I was doing it. Her coworker was the sitter with me. After I do the reading for the
Mhm.
coworker, I'm like, I'm seeing someone. I described the girl. She's like, "Oh, that's my friend at work," and her name came through. Anyway, and then that girl came and booked a session with me, and she's like, "I had a scan. I had a tumor. It's non-cancerous, but like nobody knew. I never told anyone." But my guides were like, "This girl needs to watch out for." Anyway, so things like that. So there's the social scary, but then there's the, in the actual session, my mind goes like
Mhm.
like if there's any little pause. So let's say my sitter just told me something and now I'm in my head like um I'm receiving from spirit, but let's say spirit sends me something and I'm not quite sure what it means right away. So I've just been like
Mhm.
tinkering. I what I love about Rachel is she's gotten a lot of experience, and so she's pretty calm and confident, and I'm sure you have your own, we all have like an ego that wants to be imposter syndrome-y, but for the most part, it feels like you're really just embodied in your mediumship, whereas I can get a little bit more so I've really appreciated, like, to just be able to talk with you about it, and it's helping me normalize it, so
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. I think one of the beautiful things about mediumship, and also when I do Akashic Records readings, which is accessing the kind of like database of all that is, when I'm doing either of those things, and mediumship can come through in the Akashic Records, um, I always ask spirit to help me not be centered on my ego or make it about me
yeah,
because I need to be the clear, hollow bone. And then when I notice myself getting into my head, because that's just human, that's just a part of us
it
being
is.
multidimensional beings having this human experience. When I notice that, I will purposely take a moment, take a breath, drop back into my heart, and just trust spirit because
I love that.
spirit knows the way. Spirit is the guide. Like I go with the guide into the Akashic records, or I ask, like if the loved one on the other side seems like they might be getting a little bit far away, I'll be like, okay, can you please come back? We're not quite done yet. Can you like step in closer, please? And before I do the mediumship, I'm always, always, always calling in protection because I take the light and the dark very seriously. I take spiritual hygiene very seriously. And I know that mediumship or these spiritual gifts, they are essentially tools that we can use for what you could call good and evil. That's
Yeah,
why I'm always going toward the light, which I think that really gets misunderstood, especially by like family or people who don't really understand mediumship. They might think that because of religion or whatever influence that it's just evil, it's the devil's gonna pop around the corner, you're gonna get struck by lightning, by God, whatever. The assumption is, it's simply just, like, a lack of education about it because it is so powerful, and it can be scary if you don't know how to harness that power, but, um, yeah, when you have the deep reverence for the light and the dark, and you do the shadow work, and you integrate, and you call in the protection, you know you're so held and loved by your guides, your angels, your ancestors. You know you're not doing it alone. You know that even if you have doubts that pop in, like, trust me, when I'm doing my shows, as I call myself the Milfy medium and I do them on stage, when I'm up on stage with the spotlight shining on me, trust me, there are still moments where I feel like, "Oh, I hope I still have my connection to spirit. I hope that that loved one on the other side still comes through. I hope that I still will sometimes notice myself getting that way, but I always go back to love. As long as you can return to love over and over and over again and drop the self judgment, it's like having the unconditional love for yourself so that you can be that bridge to the other side for the other person.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to talk about family. I
Yeah.
have definitely, like you, been concerned about family. I did have to, for a little while, block my own mother because um, as the Milfy medium, I have actually I did a whole 2-year plus coaching program called Love, Sex, and Relationships with Layla Martin. It's the Vita program, and it really taught me how to drop the shame from my body and to really integrate, to embody, accept pleasure, accept
Mm.
that self pleasure is not bad, like that kind of thing. And when my mother found out about it, she tried to shame me. She tried to say, I'm not going to heaven. She said it multiple times to me, which is kind of ironic because we are like multidimensional, connected to heaven all the time in that dimension. And when we talk to dead people, we're talking to them in heaven if they're in that frequency. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm fine. I've been to heaven. I talk to Jesus. I talk to Mother Mary. I like channel Goddess Isis, whatever it is. Um,
Yeah.
it is like I've come to this point though that I have learned how to love myself so deeply, and like I almost have like a warrior spirit of love for myself, where I ended up, after I unblocked my mother, I confronted her. And my inner child was just like clapping for me because I finally stood up to her in a respectful way that demanded respect for myself. In a
Yeah.
way that said, remove that language from your vocabulary of me not going to heaven. Am just fine, and I love myself, and I'm proud of the healing work that I have done. And that is a part of overcoming the trauma, stepping fully into your gifts. But no one said it's easy. It's a blessing and a curse, to be quite honest.
Yeah. I think that that's just really good to talk about because I don't know, maybe for somebody who is interested in developing their abilities, I think it's good to do that and it's good to be realistic about that it's both joy and I mean there was such an electricity and a high that I had. One time I was booked with mediumship
Yeah.
sessions for 2 months. Obviously not like every minute of every day, but I had multiple sessions each day and I was happier than I'd ever been in my entire life and not just during the workday. I mean, it had this incredible compounding effect. So it really is so, I mean, so incredible. And also it doesn't overcome, you still have your human body with her fear and her ego, and you have your lineage that you're connected to and all the wounds and the trauma that come there. And so it's very kitchen and cosmos, right? It's very both. And so can you tell me a little bit more? You said you take your spiritual hygiene really seriously, and I
Yes.
find that that is something that sets you apart from maybe other mediums I've talked to. So could you tell me about why that's so important to you and if you have like a story or just whatever.
Yes.
And then also a little bit about what your spiritual hygiene practice looks like and why.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. It's huge to me because I have seen the dark. I have experienced darkness for myself, but I've also had to take my stepdaughter to get an exorcism. I have gone on a date with a man before who had what I call a passenger or an attachment or was possessed. It is very crucial, especially when you're so sensitive to energy, to know that yes, there's a reason why some people are concerned if you're going down the spiritual path because you can use it for good, you can use it for harm. And I don't believe in harming anyone else because I believe in karma. It will just come back to bite me if I harm someone else. What's the point? We're all one energy anyway. And the lower vibration, in my opinion, if you look at light and dark as though they're on a pen like this. Like, this is light, this is dark. This is love, this is hate. This is good, this is evil, like that. And you, from a traditional Christian viewpoint, for example, this is good, this is bad, right? But if you look at it from the compassion of spirituality, this, what you might call bad, is actually, it forgot its divinity. It forgot that it's actually from God's source creator. It's been corrupted. It's this lower vibration. And so when you're going into working with the energy, you're accessing all of the energy. That's why it's important to call in protection so that you don't become possessed. You don't have a violation of your energy body. You can follow universal law of respecting your energy, of respecting other people's energy. And you can just be ethical in your practice of your spiritual hygiene. So when I say spiritual hygiene, I'm talking about cleansing and clearing your energy, which I do every single day. You can use Palo Santo or sage or incense. You can take an Epsom salt bath. I also do shielding. So when I'm doing shielding, I breathe into my heart center. I feel my love, my energy expanding outward. And anyone listening to this can do it. It just feels so good because you are like tapping into all that is that love and you let it expand. And then you're feeling that this is just your energy. You're holding your own energy. And now you're placing around it an imaginary shield. So you can make it a dark color to be safer. If it's a lighter color, it would be like moth to a flame idea. So make it a darker color, like a dark red. And then after that, you especially if I'm gonna go into a big crowd or something, I might triple or quadruple shield. I might ask all of the protection to come in because I don't want some of that gross energy that might be from a lower vibrational person who's just
Yeah.
unconscious about their divinity and their love and their
Yeah.
nature.
I love how you
So
said
the
that. Go ahead,
to
finish. I
shield
wanna yeah.
add the shield. Thank you. Yeah, to add in shielding, you can ask Archangel Michael to come shield you as your second layer of protection. And then you can also call in the Christ consciousness. This could be connected to religion or not. It's always your choice what you believe. And then the fourth one, if you really want to quadruple it up, I call in the violet flame of Saint Germain. So then I'm imagining these like beautiful purpley violet flames all around me. And I'm so protected and I'm so held. And it's just my energy and what I choose in the high vibration to be here and now.
Mhm,
But that's why it's also important to clean your energy because you want to maintain as high vibration as possible wherever you go. And then you're affecting everyone around you. You are increasing the vibration of your neighborhood, of your planet,
mhm.
of everything, as long as you are keeping your spiritual hygiene um, intact. Yeah. And I could talk more about like working with angels and demons and all that stuff. I don't work with the demons, to be clear. I protect myself from them, and some people don't believe in them, and that's fine. But I have had telepathic conversations with them because you have to tell them. I like to think of it like this.
Mhm.
So, high vibration and low vibration are like, let's say you have two neighbors, right, Lizzie? Like, imagine you have a neighbor that lives on one side of your house and they're so fun, and you would go have a tea with them any day of the week.
Yeah.
And then you have a neighbor that lives on the other side, and you wish that you could spray them in the face with a hose and call the police on them because they're harassing you or they're trying to harm your children or something crazy. Like, you don't want them anywhere near you.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're thinking of the spirits like that, you're tuning into the discernment of your body to help you know, is this a positive spirit that wishes me well and then I feel relaxed and joyful? Or is this like the neighbor that I need to call the police on?
Yeah.
That is the kind of lower vibration where you basically have to tell them to fuck off.
Yeah.
That's what you have to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this. Can you talk about, like, one thing that brings me a lot of comfort, with this spectrum of consciousness, some consciousness is still on its journey to come back to source and to be one with light.
Yeah.
And I love how you said when you look at it when you look at good and bad or good and evil through the lens of compassion. You just see that there's connection to
Mhm.
source and separation to source. And so
Yes.
it's just like
Yeah.
any relationship. You can love somebody and not trust them. You can love somebody and not choose to talk or engage with
Mhm.
them. Um anyway, so I'm just curious, at the end of the day for me what brings me comfort is realizing that I have the trump card because I can command energy. I'm a human. I have a body. I don't know, like
Mhm.
at the end of the day, if
Mhm.
somebody's a little freaked out, like what are some reassuring things for them?
Yeah, definitely. Always know that you, as a sovereign being who has the God spark within you, you are the most powerful. You're more powerful than them. So even if you're encountered with a dark or negative energy or force, like a person who's possessed or whatever it might be, you always have more power than them. It's an illusion that they have power over you. So you can command them, you can tell them to go away, that they're not welcome. And sometimes you do need reinforcements. So, like if there is an extremely dark, like set of negative energies that could be in like a haunted area or whatever, sometimes you have to call in backup. Sometimes you need to call in someone to clear the space or even like a priest or whatever it might be. But most of the time, you can handle it on your own because you have to just remember your sovereignty and that
Yeah.
you have the God spark within you of
Yeah.
source
Yes.
creator. Yeah.
Thank you. I think sovereignty is a word that you and I are both so obsessed with. Um like
Yes.
in the best way. Side note, I wanted to say that I'm hiring Rachel to come cleanse my house. And like, I'm actually a medium and I'm pretty confident that I could do a really good job. But I'm in a phase where I want to learn and I really enjoy seeing how she does things. She has a lot more experience than I do in the field. So I just wanted to put a shout out there that she's going to come cleanse my house in a few weeks and I'm looking forward to it. We have one of my kids, she just gets sick
Thank
more
you.
often and you just want to be I'm just like why not? You live a lot of time in your house, so you might
Mhm.
as well make sure that the energy is squeaky clean. So, I'm excited to have backup. I'm
Yes.
I'm calling in
Yeah. And I
backup,
also
and her name's Rachel.
thank you. I'm excited to help out. And I also want to mention my spiritual mentorship. I have the Priestess Pyramid. I launched it somewhat recently, and I am keeping the price really far down compared to what it will be in the future just because I want to make sure to like pack in as much value as possible. And it is like an early program, even though I am very experienced, like you said, Lizzie, but the program exists, incorporates all of my learning, even including like the embodiment practices in the Vita Love, Sex, and Relationships coaching. So
Yeah, that's
all the
amazing.
spiritual, and that's the difference, the embodiment,
Yeah.
not just spirit, but body too, all of
Okay.
it. Mhm.
I will definitely put that in the show notes so that people can check that out. I'm excited about that. Okay,
Thank you.
I wanted to switch gears and do something a little fun. We've gotten a little serious, which when you need to
Ooh,
talk about, like, evil spirits, you can be a little serious, but can we talk about, fun,
yeah.
crazy experimentation when you were younger, like, before you really knew your power? And, we all have incredible power, by the way, we are all sovereign. But I wanted to hear about the catching the house on fire one, if you could share that story.
Yeah, I wasn't even that young. That only happened in 2020, or was it 2021? Yeah, I think it was 2021.
Just set
It
the
wasn't
scene
that
for
long
us.
ago. Yes. Okay. So I bought a book on how to be a hedge witch because I was really curious about going deeper into the practice of witchcraft for the light. To be clear, again, you can use it as a tool however way you want, but I wanted to use it for the light for good. And so in this book, it has like very specific what you might call like recipes for every day where you have to collect like maybe a leaf from a tree or pine needles. You have to get your candle, your oils, make sigils. You have to do like very specific things. And every day I was working with an element. So the day that I worked with water, it rained. And then the day that I worked with fire, I was disappointed that nothing happened. But I really should not have been so disappointed because I just had to wait a little bit longer. I was living in Concord, New Hampshire, and I did this spell. I did exactly what the book said to do, but I did notice when I did the spell, I had a lot of fear in my body because I was still pretty new to doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key. Like, you should be trying to still feel into the embodiment and the love in your body instead of fear, instead of like feeling like you want to get out of your body as you're doing this witchcraft. So, anyway, at 1 a.m., I woke up and at the time I was still married, and my then husband, I'm divorced now, but my then husband was not in bed. And I'm like, where is he? So I went to go look for him. I saw flashing lights and I walked outside and I found him. I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "The neighbor's house is on fire." And I looked over and I saw flames shooting out of the roof and I had full body chills. And I was like, I think I did that by accident. To be clear, very by accident. I did not wish harm on anyone. Thankfully, all the people got out. Thankfully, all the animals got out. Everyone was safe, but the damage was done. And we even had to be evacuated until 4 a.m. because they were afraid that the windows would blow. Anyway, so I hired a psychic medium, my friend Samantha. She has a company called Branches of Vibrational Healing. She's based out of Massachusetts. And I asked her, "What happened? I don't understand. Like, I just did what the book said, and
Yeah.
then the house caught on fire, and I never wanted that to happen. I didn't curse them or anything." And she said, "Well, it appears that there is this female spirit in the backyard that when you did the spell, you activated her, and she's appearing like the evil queen in Snow White, like this old woman. And that when you did that, when you activated her, she's trying to uncover things underground, like tunnels or whatever." And as she told me this story, I was kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. It sounds like the Disney movie. It doesn't really like I wasn't even sure I believed her. But she said, just wait. You will see in the next couple of weeks there will be other fires in your neighborhood, and you'll know that this is true. And sure enough, there were 2 more fires in my neighborhood, and I was, like, then feeling extra guilty because look what I caused. It was like a domino effect. So a couple of years later, I mean, there had been, like, a shortage of construction workers and supplies because of COVID. We were coming out of that.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, I was walking downtown. I ran into a business owner whose husband is a fire inspector. And she said, "Oh, do you know the cause of the fire?" And I was like, definitely not gonna tell her it was me." And I was like, "No, what happened?" So she said, "Well, it's the weirdest thing." And I'm like, "I bet it is. I bet it's really weird." She said that sometime between midnight and 1 a.m., there was a flash of light that occurred that reflected off of a mirror on their balcony that reflected onto some leaves and started the fire. So when she told me that, I was like, that was definitely me. Like somehow, whatever I did, like the spark of light in the air, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seemed really crazy. And then after that, I was really scared of my own power. I actually put that book away and I was like, do not do that, Rachel. You do not need to burn down any more houses. And I think that's actually something that other light workers, other spiritual practitioners can relate to, that maybe at some point in your journey, you've become afraid of your own power. You're like, wow, I was really just trying to like follow this certain path and then the energy spiked over here and look what happened.
Mhm.
So it's a reminder we're all connected. If you're going to do that kind of thing, like cast a spell, just be really careful with how fearful are you? Have you called in enough protection? Is it a great idea for you to be doing this? And maybe you just need a mentor. Maybe you need someone to help guide you along the journey so that you're not accidentally causing
Yeah.
irreversible harm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, thanks
mhm.
for sharing that, and, of course, it was done in total innocence, right? Like, you were trying your
Mhm.
very best to
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
to act for good and for the light, and it sounds like there was, another force that got involved. Um, I wanna talk about, you and I we went to brunch recently, and We both really enjoy the work of Kaya Ra, who is a spiritual teacher. And she channeled the book, The Sophia Code. Um, but we were talking about just our religious upbringings in contrast to the way that we live today, which feels at least to me, and I guess to you, I think because we've talked about this, like more spiritually sovereign. And
Mhm,
could you just tell me a little bit about what that means? Because I think what I struggle with the most as a post Mormon person is feeling a sense of like obligation, or like almost like the church owns me. Like even though I don't participate anymore and I'm not active and by choice, and I'm like kind and loving to my friends and family in the church, but it sometimes feels deep in my psyche like, I was born into it, baptized into it, married into it. It just feels almost
mhm,
like this ownership. Maybe I'm getting at like soul contracts or cutting energy cords, but yeah, if anybody feels like there's something that really grips at them, that like they're feeling maybe a call or an interest to spiritual work, but they're feeling kind of bound or like sluggish or slow or just deeply afraid and they just
mhm.
can't overcome it. What are some tips you have?
Yeah, definitely. I have also experienced this, especially as a bisexual woman. The church that I grew up going to, so that was like part of my community. I went to church every Sunday. I was always singing in the choir or solos at church, and it was like very much a part of my life. I was paid to memorize Bible verses. Like I mentioned, I minored in religion, so it was a huge part of my life, especially since I took catechism at age 11. And it has always felt like ownership in a way. Also because I went to a Reformed church, which recently, within the past couple of years, broke off from the Reformed Church of America, and now it's the Alliance of Reformed Churches, which is very specifically anti-gay. So they specifically do not accept part of my identity as a bisexual woman, and so that has been something that has been kind of difficult for me, especially because of that feeling of religious oppression, the religious trauma that I only came out when I was 39 because I knew for a fact that I would be judged by my family, by my community, by
Yeah.
anyone who went to that church, even though it's a small church. So I think that there are a couple of things that have to happen. That, first of all, you have to learn how to love yourself so deeply and unconditionally that you get to this point where it really doesn't matter anymore what anyone thinks. Like, yes, you're going to be a little bit sad. It's natural that people are not accepting you unconditionally, but you have to be that person for yourself who stands up for your inner child, who stands up for who you are. And you have to remember that you probably chose to come here as a disruptor. You probably are the person that spirit said, or that you said before you were born. You probably chose the path of being the liberator, of being the person who is like maybe the black sheep in the family, who maybe has what we would call the witch wound. Like maybe in a past life, you were burned at the stake. You were called a witch for having a period or whatever it was. So
Yeah.
we probably in a past life have been um, hung or killed or whatever it is, burned at the stake for having these spiritual abilities. And that we as women, especially, are a portal to the other side. We have a portal between our legs to the other side. We give birth to children, we give birth to ideas. And yeah, I would say it's really about unconditional love for yourself, accepting yourself no matter what, standing up for yourself, and remembering like you came here for this beautiful soul mission. And it's not always going to be easy, but it's so important. And I remember also, this is connected to what we're talking about. When I went to Costa Rica on this retreat, and it was for the Vita Love, Sex, and Relationships program. There were 100 women. We were self pleasuring next to each other every day for like a week. And I was like, what is my life? But I remember when I was doing some of the breath work, completely naked, doing breath work, my grandmothers came to me from the other side And they both told me, "Wow, we are so proud of you. We, um, did not get the opportunity in our lifetimes to heal at this deep cellular level. Like, you are getting this opportunity because of the sacrifices that we
Yes.
have made,
Yeah.
because of what we have done." And so then after that, I learned how to work with the ancestors, with my ancestors instead of against them, instead of thinking that I'm like somehow superior to them in wisdom and knowledge. No, it was like they did what they had to do. And now they're so proud that I get to heal on in this very deeply personal way. They didn't have that opportunity. They could have, been shunned by their family or whatever it was. They could have been at risk of death or whatever it was. So we're living in this extraordinary time where we get to fully come on board with our gifts and not be afraid of being killed. It's amazing.
Mhm.
It's
I
incredible. It's an
agree.
honor.
I agree, and I
Yeah.
think if I could just share and reflect what's kinda coming through to me as you're sharing all this, and by the way, thank
Mhm.
you so much. I know you have done so much healing. I think we both have, and I just so enjoy being your friend and, just getting to witness you, and I learned so much from
Yeah,
you.
likewise.
Thanks. I think one thing that's coming through to me is that when you are proactive in spiritual protection, then, any fear that you might naturally have is just so much more, like, decentralized in your body. Like, when you're not
Yes.
prepared and you're not protecting, then that fear just can just sit there,
Mhm.
right? Almost like
Yeah.
anticipatory. But if you're anticipating protection, then you can't be anticipating fear.
Yeah, exactly. And also everything in life is about allowing and disallowing. And so you can get to this place in your life where maybe people from the church can lecture you, and you can just choose to see it differently and tell them, "No, I don't agree with that," and be okay with it. And it's
Mhm.
fine to agree to disagree, despite what some people may think or believe. We are all perspectives. We are all aspects of consciousness, and that's what everything is in this 3D reality or above. And so it's okay. You can get to that place where you can just tell someone like, "I disagree with you," and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I'm trying to think of any last thoughts. We have like 5 more minutes, and I just wanted to kind of soften, and I think what I wanna share is that, Rachel and I at a lot earlier, before you developed your mentorship program, we had done a sort of a trade where I was helping you with business stuff and you were helping me with mediumship stuff. And, so you one of the activities we did, do you mind if I share?
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
okay, one of
Yep.
the activities you had us do is, so Rachel would show me, one at a time, but she would show me one photo at a time and probably like 5 different photos of people, and I had to feel into, are they living or deceased? Um,
Mhm.
and what that really taught me is what a huge role that my presence and the state of my nervous system, like the impact that
Mm.
that has on my abilities. And also, one thing you said earlier in this interview is when you get nervous, you just drop into your heart. And I
Mhm.
think that if I'm experiencing performance anxiety of any kind, then I am
Yeah.
farther away from my gift. I can still feel the gift. I can still understand or hear or receive, but it's so much quieter because there's so much more noise. So
Mhm.
anyway, that was really helpful for me because the first time we did the photos, I was like kind of right, kind of wrong, like maybe 50
Mhm.
50. And then I got to the point where I was so much more correct and in tune. And so much of it was just getting away from all that noise. So, anyway, I just appreciate this conversation because I feel like, I don't know if you want to call it the messy middle, but somewhere in between like a brand new medium and a booming professional medium.
Mhm.
I'm in that messy, like becoming. And I'm sure you are too in your
Yeah.
own ways. But I was really
Mhm.
excited to just because you have the training, you've done live shows, you've done so many readings. It's just been really fun for me to just have you here and to be able to talk through this. So I so, so, so appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to obviously I want to put your offerings in the show notes, but yeah, is there anything else as you drop in that you feel kind of called to say or anything from your heart
Yeah,
you want to
I
leave
would
the
love
audience with?
to. Yeah, I would love to invite everyone listening to my tour that I have coming up. It's starting in September. It's mostly in Scottsdale, Arizona, but it's also in San Diego, California. So my mediumship shows are very unique because not only am I connecting with your loved one on the other side, but where appropriate, I add some humor. I have taken improv classes. And then also there's a little spiciness. So, for example, at my last show, I flogged a woman on stage. There's just a little bit of extra where there's a little sexiness. It might be in like how I speak in bringing handcuffs on the stage or whatever it might be. But, I really wanna give people the opportunity to remember, like, even though, it's been really difficult to lose your loved one, and of course you have grief, that is completely natural. There's also still a space for you to have joy in your life. There's still a space for you to be able to laugh, to be able to like, maybe get turned on, like, maybe feel pleasure in your life, even though life has been hard and you have lost people who are on the other side. They're still there with you in spirit. They still hear you when you talk to them. They're doing just fine. They're in this beautiful place, and, there's nothing to worry about. They're all doing okay. It's all one energy, and they're one with God when they're in that space. So yeah, I
Yes.
just wanna give people a feeling of, like, hope and of love, and even though it's totally normal to feel grief, you're also allowed to experience joy too, even though you've gone through difficult things like losing someone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're such a walking epitome of shameless, like being shame-free. Like you've done so much
Mm,
um just alchemy there with the shame that you were raised with around body
mm.
and sexuality. So one of the medicines, I guess, or the
Yeah.
healing impacts of being even just being your friend is that you're so deeply at peace with and proud of and in love with yourself and your body and your sexuality. And that has a very, it either triggers people who are not anywhere near there or
Yes.
it's liberating and expansive. And so, what a gift. And yeah, I do want to encourage you guys. I'm going to be going to one of her shows. I'm bringing my friend Jen.
Woohoo.
And so, yeah, definitely check out one of our shows and we'll put both of our information in the show notes to be able to book a session or a reading or whatever. So, thank you so much for coming, Rachel. So fun to see you again so
You're
soon.
welcome.
Rachel and I work together a little bit in one of our part-time jobs, and then we also network together at the Phoenix Nova, part of the Nova Global, which I run here locally, and then we also are friends and went to brunch recently. So it's kind of fun.
Yes, and I do have to also give a shout out to you for your gifts. They're also strong, and I'm like, "Give yourself more credit."
I'm
Everyone
trying.
should book with Lizzie.
Yeah, no, I like the thing is I'm very able. Like the gift is not the issue for me, which is great. Some people are just trying to work on that. Like I've got that. For me it's the ownership of it. Yep. Yep, for sure. And also that performance anxiety can creep in. And so I'm really working. So maybe I need to do your mentorship container. That would be
That
amazing.
would be amazing. I would love it.
Yeah. Well, I love you so much, and
Amazing.
we'll see you around. You guys, thanks for being here and listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
I love you. Bye.